Are You Gonna Go My Way by Tygermine. Summary. Hermione and Blaise have an arrangement. How does a gingerbread biscuit change that? A Hermione Granger and Blaise Sabini fanfiction. Here's the thing. When you move to a foreign city, away from everyone that you know and love, your brain does something to your personality, and you end up doing things you'd never expect yourself to do. Things like shagging Blaise Sabini. Hermione couldn't really explain it other than he was someone she knew in a city full of strangers. It hadn't been her intention to fall into bed with him. It just sort of happened, like when you walked into the grocery shop for eggs and came out with a trolley full of items, but no eggs. She had moved to Los Angeles a year before and had trouble making friends with the people there. She'd been alone and lonely, so when she ran across him at a house party, they seemed to latch onto each other in a way that only loneliness could explain. She'd never harbored feelings for him in the past, nor had she found him attractive per se, but here she was, waking up in his bed for the umpteenth time since that night. And while the sex was rather good, there just wasn't anything more in her eyes. That's when the biscuits started turning up. It was the weekend before Christmas, and the only reason Hermione had any idea was due to the obnoxious decorations everywhere. Los Angeles could do a lot of things right, but Christmas was not one of them. It wasn't cold enough, there was no snow, and all the Santas she saw wore shorts and were tanned. In Hermione's opinion, Los Angeles didn't deserve Christmas. So imagine her surprise at finding the perfect gingerbread man lying on her desk one morning. It was the size of a side plate and was perfectly iced with a little smiley face and a Santa suit. There was no note. Hermione was no fool and didn't try it. One never knew what it was made with, and her mother had always taught her not to accept sweets from strangers or ghosts, as it seemed. She binned it and forgot about it until she met Blaise for drinks that night at some quiet little beach bar in Redondo Beach Pier. Blaise was the one trying to bring it up, albeit in his own roundabout way.
Muggers certainly celebrate Jewel in an odd way, don't they?
Mass consumerism? She took a sip of some cranberry cocktail Blaise had ordered for them.
That too, but I was thinking how they just don't understand the point of Jewel. They just pick and choose the parts they like, and that's not even covering the multicultural appropriation violations.
It's a multicultural society.
Yes, but Santa's Scandinavian, the Christmas tree is German, and it's not about gifts, Blaise pointed out.
I know my methodology, thank you. But what's got you all worked up?
Do you know why we use gingerbread in the magical world for Jewel?
He leaned closer to her. Because it's delicious. She smiled and took another sip of her drink, enjoying goading Blaise a little. He rolled his eyes at her and knocked back his cocktail while motioning to the waitress for another round.
Ginger is about healing, increasing energy, luck, and sex.
Okay, Professor. Hermione teased him to distract from the tingle she felt in her inner thighs at the way he pronounced sex in his deep voice, making it sound far more salacious than it should. He raised an eyebrow at her.
We'll explore your professor kink another time, when we aren't surrounded by people, he said softly. It's about gathering your power at the darkest time of the year and bolstering it to see you do the equinox in the spring. To heal it if you've done harm to it with bad spells. To rejuvenate it.
Basically, giving your magic a facial.
In more ways than one.
Blaise waggled his eyebrow suggestively. Don't be gross. Hermione chided him, gently pushing at his shoulder.
You're the one that mentioned facials.
It was her turn to roll her eyes at him.
Anyway, he continued, it's the only tradition in this hellhole I can actually support.
It's not that bad.
Hermione, we're in exile, nay, purgatory. We pissed off the wrong people and they promoted us to the other end of the world.
He even did the finger quotes.
We both hate it here. Don't even think about lying to me. We're only doing what we're doing because we know each other. If we were still in England, there's no way you'd be spending your evenings in my bed.
He shrugged and accepted their refills from the waitress.
Who knows? Maybe you'd be shacked up with Drake or something.
Well, at least Blaise had no illusions as to what they are and where they stand. Are you okay with our situation? Hermione felt a burning desire to know, to define where they stood. He leaned back in his seat and spent long moments just staring at her. She met and held his gaze. Blaise licked his lips and leaned forward.
I'm never satisfied with anything in my life, but this, he indicated between them, this satisfies me.
He didn't ask her if she was satisfied with their arrangement, which was a relief. She wouldn't know how to answer it if he had. Someone left a gingerbread biscuit on my desk today. Blaise simply raised his eyebrows in response. I threw it away.
Why'd you do that?
He asked. I never accept food from unknown sources. Blaise nodded.
Your loss, I guess. I'm sure it would have been delicious.
The icing hurts my teeth. I prefer soft gingerbread anyway.
Well, now I know more about your baked goods preferences than I ever thought I would.
He smiled and took her hand.
What do you say to us going back to mine and seeing if Ginger's sex magic is as good as it sounds?
As tempting as that offer is, I'm going home. Rain check? She stood from her seat and pulled on her jacket. I'll flew you. Hermione found herself changing course halfway home and headed to Venice Beach boardwalk, walking north towards Santa Monica. One question circled her mind as she walked, ignoring the crowds around her. Was she happy with their arrangement? She wasn't unhappy with it per se. It was fun, it was convenient, it was someone to hold. Was it more? Could it be more? Did she want more? Would he be open to evolving the relationship? Was she? Their earlier conversation played in a loop in her mind. Blaise could be serious one moment, then joke like a preteen the next. Talking to him was like playing table tennis. You had to keep your wits about you. She liked that about him. He was also rather good-looking, which certainly helped his appeal, and someone had taught him some pretty impressive moves in the bedroom that left her breathless. She liked that, too. The night they met at the party, he had such a sharp wit that she choked on her champagne more than once. Most bedroom sessions had her laughing until her sides hurt. She definitely liked that he made her laugh, pulling her out of her own head. Hermione stopped suddenly as her stomach lurched and fluttered. She liked Blaise Sabini in more than just the arrangement. Well, bugger. She made her way home, the terror and excitement of her realization not allowing her much room for a good night's sleep. From the moment Hermione dragged herself from her bed, she went back and forth. I should tell him. No, bad idea. I really should tell him. He's going to laugh and then ghost me. Over and over. She was so distracted when she arrived at work, she almost overlooked a small package on her desk. The tag held a simple message.
You make me all soft inside.
Inside the box was a large gingerbread cookie, soft and gooey on the inside when she broke it in half. The spicy ginger aroma triggering the same reaction that she had to how Blaise pronounced the word sex. Mind made up, she flew to Blaise's office, bypassed his secretary, and barged into his office. I want more, Hermione announced, before noticing his office held two visitors who turned to her with confused expressions. Blaise smiled in his lopsided trademark way that made her own mouth turn up.
I'll arrange the number of the bakery for you.
He played it cool, gesturing to the box in her hands. Not more gingerbread, you obtuse fool! She charged on, ignoring the visitors. More of this, she gestured between them. Upgrade it to something real. Blaise stood and ran at his desk to gently remove the box from her hands and deposit it on the corner of the desk. He tuned his attention to his guests and with a jerk of his head sent them on their way. The door had barely closed when Blaise cupped Hermione's cheeks.
It was always real for me.
Like you said?
I lied. I had to play it cool.
You're ridiculous. She laughed and pushed up on her toes to kiss him. Hermione rolled onto her bag, her skin damp from sweat slipping against the silk sheets of Blaise's bed, the muscles in her thighs jumping from the exertion of their session. The air in the room thick with the aromas of ginger and sex. She glanced over at the table in the corner, which held the smouldering remnants of the gingerbread house they had to build to invoke the spell. Blaise rolled onto his side, touching her from toe to shoulder.
Once I catch my breath, I'm going to see if they were right about the magic,
he whispered, kissing her shoulder. I can feel it tingling just under my skin, she replied softly. She lifted her hand, noticing minute flashes of sparks between her fingers. I feel if I can cast anything right now without my wand. Blaise trailed his fingers along her stomach from her ribs towards her navel. Tiny blue sparks jumped between them, making her stomach muscles quiver.
Much better than a facial.
He smiled. Especially seeing as how I don't have to worry about your aim.
Oh, really?
He slid his arm around her waist and pulled her even closer to him, almost covering her completely. Hermione giggled as he began kissing her neck. She could feel him begin to grow against her thigh, her core increasing its throbbing in anticipation for the next round.
I love you.
She felt him breathe into her skin behind her ear. Her heart annoyingly skipped a beat at the words. She turned her head and caught his lips in a kiss. She loved him too. Hermione wasn't sure if they'd be saying it to each other by this time next year, but for now, in this moment, it worked and she held it close to her heart. Tomorrow seemed an eternity away, and she found herself not caring. No plans, no expectations. Just his arm around her and their hearts beating together was all she needed. Maybe this is what happiness was. And if so, she'd take it. The end. Thank you for listening to Are You Gonna Go My Way by Tygermine, read by Ella Max Mabella. If you would like to stay up to date on upcoming chapters and stories, you can follow me on AO3, YouTube or Spotify.